tell no more, peace begun, something's gotta give. Monster, monster, gonna throw you out the door.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni viewer, and welcome to a slightly different edition of Genre Benders, Obscurities, and Flawed Gems. Since giant monsters are my specialty, I think it was inevitable that I would one day review the movie Cloverfield. Indeed, this is a movie I've wanted to talk about for a long time. However, one does not simply review this movie, because you see, there is Cloverfield the movie, and then there is Cloverfield the experience. The two are intertwined, and, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's start with a simple review of Cloverfield the movie.
The plot is easy enough to summarize. Done in found footage style, the film begins as a document of a party being thrown for Rob, who has just secured a vice presidential position for a company in Japan. The party is disrupted when a sudden earthquake and explosion signal the arrival of a giant monster in Manhattan. However, when Rob learns that Beth, the woman he loves, can't escape the city because she's trapped in her building, he doesn't follow the evacuation, but instead runs into the chaos with every intention of saving her. Accompanying him are Lily, the fiancée of his brother killed in the attack, Hud, the dopey cameraman, and Marlena, the girl Hud is interested in. The footage documents their rescue attempt, during which they constantly run into the monster and the strange parasites falling off of it.
Cloverfield sets itself apart from other giant monster movies in two specific ways. First, and most obviously, is the found footage format.
Found footage movies about aliens, ghosts, and demons are a dime a dozen, but Cloverfield was the first giant monster movie to adopt the format, and it makes good use of it. Sure, it means that we don't see the monster as much as in other movies, but when we do, the fact that the camera is always at ground level really drives home how big it is.
This format also results in the second interesting aspect. The movie focuses on the people who are running.
Most giant monster movies focus on the people fighting the monster. The soldiers, the scientists, and the like, maybe with a reporter thrown in for the sake of exposition. Movies that focus on the people in the crowd who are running away are rare. Not unheard of, but rare. Godzilla Raids Again is a good example.
While we are provided with good stock characters here, I have to say that ultimately they are the weakest part of the movie.
The main problem I have with this aspect is that I don't think we got to know the characters well enough to believe they would act this way in this situation. We never get a real sense of Rob and Beth's relationship. All we know is that they slept together once, then something went bad between them, and Rob still cares about her, but not enough to keep him from going to Japan, yet when a monster attacks he insists on running towards it to save her.
Frankly, I don't buy it. Nor do I buy that the other characters would follow him as closely as they do.
The South Korean movie The Host does something similar with its story, though in that film the main characters were all family members, so their choice to save the youngest of their clan from a monster makes sense to me. That's what family does. Some 20-something millennials who were just drinking at a party? That's harder to swallow.
Still, at least they're not annoying. As long as you can get past the repetitive dialogue.
Rob, hey, Rob, wait up. Rob,
Wait a minute.
Rob, hey, Rob.
As for the monster itself, wait, does it actually have a name?
Everything I find says that the crew just referred to the monster as Clover. It'll do.
Anyway, Clover was conceived by the crew, and J.J. Abrams especially, to be a sort of American answer to Godzilla, a kaiju that would be just as iconic and popular for America as the King of the Monsters is to Japan.
Well, that experiment sure was a failure. Maybe if they'd released a sequel in a timely manner and didn't charge $200 for what was by all accounts a poorly sculpted figure anyway, they might have actually had something.
As it stands currently, Clover is recognizable, but is by no means the iconic American kaiju Abrams was hoping it would be.
As of this point, that title is currently being held by Nemesis, which I'm okay with.
That's not to say Clover is a bad monster, mind you. It definitely has a striking design that is appropriately alien and just ugly enough to be unsettling. Apparently, the intention was for Clover, despite its tremendous size, to be an infant with separation anxiety, which is sort of conveyed.
It certainly is portrayed naturalistically as an animal lost in a strange environment, but I've shown this movie to people who are convinced that Clover is actively hunting the humans. Normally I'd say this is evidence that the movie fumbled, but it's formatted in such a way that Clover's motivation can be just about anything, so I won't hold that against it this time.
The parasites are also especially horrific, adding an extra layer of danger to the proceedings when our heroes think they're safe. Their role isn't that significant, but they are certainly memorable.
So Cloverfield is a good movie. It makes good use of its cinematic format and provides us with an interesting monster. That's really all I have to say about it. So, how come this video isn't done yet? Like I said at the beginning, there's Cloverfield the movie, and then there's Cloverfield the experience. And Cloverfield the experience cannot simply be ignored.
When the trailer for Cloverfield premiered, it was completely unexpected, and we had no idea what it was. All it consisted of was a condensed version of the party and the unseen Clover chucking the Statue of Liberty's head down the street, followed by a release date.
That was it. No cast list, no title, no explanation, just a release date.
Soon after, we got a poster that also lacked a title. Naturally, we began speculating about what this could possibly be, and at first, it was pretty normal. The prevailing theories were either an original idea or a Godzilla remake. The only fringe theory was that it might be a Cthulhu Mythos film.
However, the folks at Bad Robot remained oddly silent on the matter, and as a result, things started to get weird. You think the theorizing about Five Nights at Freddy's got out of hand? Oh, that was nothing.
People began to say that the damage on the statue in the poster gave us clues as to what the monster looked like. Others said the monster's profile was hidden in the clouds. But wait, if you split the image down the middle and mirrored half of it, you could see an image of Jesus Christ, so the movie must be about the rapture. But what was the title? Was the release date the title? Was the release date also when it took place? Getting the title Cloverfield actually didn't help matters. Was Cloverfield just a placeholder? And if not, what could it possibly mean? Was the movie somehow connected to the series Lost, another Bad Robot production? What was the significance of the Slusho shirts people were wearing?
The craziest it ever got was when people started insisting that the line from the trailer, "I saw it, it's alive, it's huge," was actually, "I saw it, it's a lion, it's huge," which made them immediately jump to the idea that Cloverfield was actually going to be a Voltron movie, because it's only logical to make the jump from lion to one of several giant robot lions that can fuse together into a giant human-looking robot, right? I swear, people actually believed this, all based on a single misheard word.
Basically, the speculation became the primary way the movie was marketed, and that suited the boys at Bad Robot just fine. They let internet speculation promote the movie for them as they remained quiet and simply assured us that we would get answers to all of the mysteries eventually.
By eventually, they meant when it came out on DVD and Blu-ray, but even then it was a bust. The only way to access the stuff that promised to answer all of our questions was to go to the end of the scene selection menu and wait 2 minutes for scene 17 to appear, after which you select that and you're brought to this menu, full of all sorts of declassified files. Now, this is where we would get our answers, right? Wrong. All it did was raise more questions.
For starters, some of the items were just there for decoration and did nothing when selected, and what we could watch made very little sense. I'm still not sure how these vlog-style videos of this girl are connected to anything. Honestly, they feel like they come from a completely different movie, and too many pieces are missing for us to make sense of it. This news report claims to show the origin of Clover, who was awoken by a drilling rig in the mid-Atlantic Ocean. But what about this shot from the end of the movie proper, which clearly shows something falling into the water right off the coast of Coney Island? That's supposed to be there, right? It's not a UFO they filmed by accident and decided to leave in to see if anyone would notice. If that isn't Clover, or something that awakened Clover, then what is it? And if that is what awakened Clover, what happened at the oil rig?
Literally, the only thing we ever got that gave us any answers at all was a nearly impossible to find one-shot manga called Cloverfield Kenshin, but that was declared to be not canon because of course it's not. In the end, Cloverfield the Experience proved to be nothing but one gigantic frustration, an exercise in futility at its very core. And you know what the sad part is? It didn't have to be that way.
When taken on its own merits, sure, Cloverfield doesn't give us an explanation of where Clover comes from, but it didn't really need to. Since the movie is about the people running for dear life, what does it matter? It was kind of like Tremors. That franchise lasted 5 movies and 1 short-lived TV series, and none of them have ever explained where the graboids come from, because that's not the point of those movies. There's one conversation devoted to it in the first film where the characters speculate, but it's left up to the audience to decide.
Personally, I think they're related to the sandworms from Frank Herbert's Dune, but that's just me.
Cloverfield has a very similar conversation about midway through its runtime, and within the confines of the film itself, that would have been enough.
The mystery was unimportant to the movie, but thanks to the experience, the mystery became more than just important. It became the priority, the one thing everyone cared about the most.
After a while, though, it became clear that Bad Robot had no answers to give us, and never did. The mystery was nothing more than a way to get attention. This became obvious when they did it again for Super 8, building up the mystery of the alien creature on the train when the alien creature wasn't even the focus of the film.
Sadly, this has affected my feelings toward Cloverfield. I still think it's a good movie, but I can't help but feel slightly disappointed by it because it was built up to be something more than it ultimately is.
Part of it was the fans running wild with speculation, and part of it was the studio letting us go wild and save them some work in advertising. It solidified a pattern for J.J. Abrams that continues to this day.
Think of all the speculation that surrounded Star Wars The Force Awakens. Think about all the stuff that fans were going nuts over, all the different mysteries that turned out to either be completely unimportant or deliberately left open so they could be answered in the next movie. Congratulations, Abrams. You lured us into the theater for nothing, yet again.
I would say that Cloverfield the Experience was worth the frustration if we, the audience, had actually learned from it. But the passage of time has shown that we didn't. We keep coming back, always certain that this time we'll get answers, even though we have more than enough evidence these days to show that Abrams and Bad Robot have never been good at that sort of thing, and are perhaps even outright refusing to be.
Like I said, I do think Cloverfield the movie is good, but having to go through the experience to get to it just left me feeling empty inside. If you managed to see the movie without having to go through the experience, you have no idea how lucky you are. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer, signing off.
If you found this tape, I mean, if you're watching this right now, then you probably know more about it than I do.